Granddad Business with Aaron Kleiber. That's my dad. Hello! Underpants? That is hilarious. You should mouth to rate and review this podcast or my daddy will go into a deep depression. Going down business with Aaron Kleiber. Yeah.
Boom. Welcome to Grown Dad Business. This is Aaron Kleiber. We have an awesome show this week with an old friend of mine named Josh Sneed. Really funny dude. But first of all, every time I talk by myself, I can't talk. I need like a person to sit in the room and like look at me so I speak correctly. That's what I think I need. I just need, like, maybe I'll just sit my baby on a chair and I'll just talk to her, little fire cat. But then she'll probably rip the cords out of the podcast equipment and then try to strangle me with them. And then, yeah, that's probably what'll happen. But yeah, good week. It's been a pretty crazy week. I had an amazing week performing at Hilarities in Cleveland, one of my favorite clubs in the country. We did our first road show of the stand-up Get Down, which is myself and Jason Clark, my co-host. It's our stand-up comedy game show. If you're interested in checking it out, we do it every single month at Arcade Comedy Theater in Pittsburgh. Check that out. And you can check my calendar. It's on aaronkleiber.com, just, whatever, or growndadbusiness.com. It's the same thing. Just helps you spell my name better. But come see me live. I got a bunch of things coming up. I'm coming to Buffalo. I'm coming to other cities. A bunch of different, I don't even remember. It's been a long week. We're also building a house. So we just started that process, and it is exhausting. You'll hear more about that next week when I'm probably with Jason Clark talking about some grown dad topics. So you'll hear all about that. I probably should do I'm building a house podcast every week. That might be helpful. I don't know. You want to hear more about that? Let me know. And they're like, who are you building with? I'm building with Ryan Holmes. So I could tell you all about that. So anyway, that's what's going on. If you're into movies, you could check out Sean Collier and I. We do a movie review podcast. It's actual movie reviews. Sean Collier is a real movie reviewer. Go to You Can't Handle the Truth podcast on iTunes or handlethetruthpodcast.com. We do new movies every week, and sometimes when there's not a new movie coming out, we do retro films, and that's a lot of fun to review old films. Check that out. But other than that, that's what's cracking. And I think that's like a segment. It's like, now for What's Crackin'? That sounds like a really corny segment on a daytime talk show. Which will probably be a segment. If I ever get a show, that's what I'll do. I'll be like, what's cracking? But no, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors. First off, Ignite Hospitality. If you're an entertainer of any sort, check out Ignite Hospitality Services, because Adam at Ignite Hospitality will hook you up with really great prices on hotel rooms, and it's considered a hotel barter. You barter reviews and social media posts. Yeah, basically you give shout-outs to a hotel, and they'll give you a cheaper hotel room. Very cheap. It's pretty awesome. IgniteHospitalityServices.com. And also a shout-out to my producer. If you are ever in the need for any kind of photography, video production, audio engineering, they do everything. Epicast. You have to check out Epicast. It's the only reason why I have my podcasts, because they're so awesome at it. They make them sound amazing. Holler at your boys, Nick, Buzzy, and Dom. They're killing it always. They put on amazing live shows as well. So hit them up. If you want to start your own podcast, check out Epicast. Epicast.tv, Epicast Network at Gmail. Hit them up. You want to start your own show? Do it. You want to record something live? Do it. Do Epicast. If you want to just like, hey, we want to record, I'm giving a speech at this college, do Epicast. Have them do it. You want to have them record your band, just playing a show, do Epicast. Pretty awesome. I love those guys. My creative content is in their hands, and I trust them. So, all right. Without further ado, my guest, Josh Sneed, is an amazing comic. He's one of the few comics that I know that has really made it as a headline comic who has not lived in New York or LA. He works a lot of the A clubs like the Funny Bones and the Improvs. And I met Josh. He was my first guest set ever at the Pittsburgh Improv, my home club, where I came up. And, I just remember just thinking how funny it was and how awesome. And then as my career goes on, I'm trying to have a stand-up career, and I don't live in LA and New York, and Josh is always one of those guys I look to see what he's up to or what would Josh do, and I had a really great talk with him even before and after the podcast about all sorts of career things, and he's a great guy and an even better comic. And you may have seen him on Comedy Central. He has a half-hour special on Comedy Central. He's been on Premium Blend. He's on a heavy rotation on SiriusXM. He's a favorite on Bob and Tom Radio. So without further ado, my friend and I, Josh Sneed, get right into it. Welcome to Grown Dad Business. This is Aaron Kleiber. I'm sitting outside. It's beautiful next to the A River in Pittsburgh. A River. I'm here with my friend Josh Sneed. I almost said Josh Blue.
That's a different show. It's going to be a much different conversation.
Yep.
You said A River. You don't know what river this is?
Yeah, this is the Monongahela.
It sounds like way more exotic than it is.
Yeah, but they're all Native American names.
Well, I live by the Ohio River, which I don't think is a...
That's a Native American word, I think.
Is Ohio?
I'm pretty sure it is.
Okay.
Ohio. Think about how that comes off. It just sounds like a crazy...
To me, it sounds like a Norwegian who's surprisingly happy to see someone. Oh, Ohio.
Yeah. But do you think... Look, jet skis?
Yeah, do you think that...
the state actually... I'm going to read this Wikipedia like it's random knowledge.
I appreciate
you know when people do that?
No, I appreciate you clarifying that.
Well, no, I think I heard... I think Ohio originates from, an Iroquois word? I believe it's an Iroquois word, and it means either Great River or Great Lake. I think it's something like that. But yeah, it was partitioned.
So smart.
Yeah, well, it was partitioned from the Northwest Territory. The state admitted to the Union as the 17th state. I don't know if you knew that about your own state.
No, I didn't look it up.
Don't you love when people do that? Like at a bar or after a show, they're like, you said that in your joke that
yeah.
That lady at the Chinese buffet was Chinese, but that you actually said a Japanese word. I'm talking about a real joke that I do and an actual occurrence.
That's hilarious.
That's true.
I used to sell a T-shirt that said the square root of 69 equals 8 something, and I would have math teachers come up to me after the show
anymore?
And tell me what it's 8 point. I'm like, okay, you've already missed the joke.
Yeah. Yeah, that was your famous shirt.
Famous is
like
a stretch.
You sold that for a while, though.
I sold it for a long time, and people were still buying it. The only reason I stopped is because I didn't really have to sell it anymore. But it's still people love it. People love that visual joke. They love a CD is such a hard sell after a show because even if you tell them like this is completely different material than what you heard tonight, it's like something in the back of their heads like I just saw that. Right. But a T-shirt, even if it's one that they may never wear, somehow you can convince them like this is a good deal. Like you're taking home something you'll get a lot of use out of. And so I used to just sell that shirt like by the hundreds on the week. It was crazy.
Oh, I'm not. I have a DVD that I've been selling for 2 years that I'm like, I don't even want to give these people those jokes anymore. I'm like, I don't want you to see this.
Right.
It's so bad to me now.
Well, I have 2 albums, and so I don't do any material from the first one, so I can.
Me
say,
too. I'm like, you heard nothing on this DVD.
Yeah. So here's 100% 1 hour of material you haven't heard. And
makes you feel good when you say that.
It does make you feel good.
I love it, dude. Every time I say it, I'm like, damn right.
And then my second one, it's like half of what they heard, and then there's another 30 minutes besides that.
It's the best.
So. I feel like they're getting a good deal.
Yeah.
But the weird thing is selling CDs almost feels antiquated at this point.
Right.
Because, like, when's the last time You know what I mean?
And how funny is that when people will say, like, nobody listens to CDs anymore, and then I'm selling my DVD, and they'll go, oh, this isn't a CD? And I'm like, oh, well, get out of my face. Are you kidding me? Guys, welcome to the Entertainment Entrepreneurial Podcast. So anyway, merch ROI.
Welcome to the How Do We Get By Doing Everything Except Just Being Good at Stand-Up Comedy podcast.
Oh, my gosh. How funny of a podcast that would be where you just talk about everything but doing comedy.
Just supplemental income to being a comedian.
Yeah. Well, no, I was excited to have you. Josh is at the Pittsburgh Improv this weekend, my home club. I'm home doing real estate meetings.
Hey, man.
Yeah.
Grown dad business.
Grown dad
right?
business, dude. But you are definitely, I just told you before that you're definitely one of the comics I watch and follow.
I hate to interrupt you saying something nice about me, but I'm going to take away your self-deprecation right there and say, you know what 98% of all comedians wish they were doing this afternoon? Going to a real estate meeting about picking out a place to build a house.
That made me feel good, Josh.
I'm serious, man.
That's a good point.
My friends come into town to Cincinnati. They see a house that my mortgage is probably less than the rent of their studio apartment in L.A. or New York.
I know.
And they think I live in a mansion.
I know. That's
and you know what? That's what I remind myself when I think, hey, why didn't I get Conan O'Brien?
Right.
Or why am I not on all these commercials?
Or why,
I go, you
why
know
do
what?
I live in L.A.?
You know what? I look at my house. I look at my kids. They each have their own bedroom and plenty of room to play. I go downstairs to the basement to my man cave.
Yep.
I go out and I sit in my front yard or my backyard.
I love it.
And I go, you know what?
That's the idea.
Let them have it. I'm cool.
Well, that's where we were at. I told you, like, it is exciting. It's exciting that, like, I want to make sure that my wife and kids have the best life possible and not suffer because of me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like,
I mean,
yeah,
absolutely, 100%.
That's why we're building a house here.
But I have more friends that are jealous of me than I am jealous of them.
This is some real grown dad business.
It is, man.
You were laying it down. I love it.
I'm an angel put into your life to provide
my
perspective.
favorite is when comedians come on and actually speak into my life. That's always good. I love that.
It's, the worst day of being a comedian that lives in the Midwest is better than the best day of any other job I've ever had.
I have to pause for tears. No, you're absolutely right. No, it's good. No, but I do follow, like, I see the dad comedians. You know, especially you live in the Midwest. Mm-hmm. You're in Cincinnati, and so I'm like, what are they doing? You know what I mean? Like, what are they up to? You know what I mean? Yeah. And I like following other stuff. Like, your son is hilarious.
He's awesome.
And dude, I have my 5-year-old son, Luke the Nuke.
Dean and Luke would be buddies.
Oh, are you kidding me? Everything. Matter of fact, I think Luke has watched some Dean videos, like lightsaber fighting, and I'm like, dude, check this out. And he's like, who's that? Who is that? And he's hashtag Luke the Nuke. Does Dean have a nickname?
He has several in the house. There's Green Bean, Dino, Dean Machine.
Dean Machine is good.
Yeah. He is me as a kid. You know how it's like
100%.
Like, I used to joke before I was even married that how much I was worried about having a kid one day because I could see all the stuff that I thought was popular with kids at the time. You know, Barney and Dora the Explorer and Bob the Builder. And I'm just like, I don't feel like I ever watched that stuff. I mean, maybe like Sesame Street or the Electric Company, but I remember watching cool cartoons as a kid, and I'm like, you know what? When I have a kid, my only hope is that they're into cool stuff because I don't want to be that dad that has to watch the same show that I hate and he loves on a loop, right? So from the beginning, I got him into Star Wars and baseball, and he took to it, and now it's like having a miniature best friend.
Yeah, isn't it amazing?
It's the best.
But do you ever feel like those parents that do press really hard on their kids to like something? Like, you know, like I have a friend that's like, you will love this character from my childhood. And I'm like, your 2-year-old daughter doesn't like Thundercats, dude.
Right.
Would you relax?
Right. Like, it can't be something that's not even on anymore.
Or you see those parents that are like, you see their kids and it's like a 3-year-old wearing like a Michael Jackson Thriller shirt. And you're like, they don't like that, dude.
Yeah. I
did that
can't
to
make
them.
fun. I can't make fun because I have put him in. I put him in Star Wars onesies before, you know, but that was more for me. And I will say, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm torn on that because I feel like when I see a kid wearing one of those, it tells me a lot about their parents.
Yes.
So like Dean, as soon as he could walk, it had nothing to do with the fact that we were waiting for him to walk, but it was just around that age.
Right.
He had a Blues Brothers T-shirt.
It's amazing.
And he,
see, I'm not judging at all. I'm like, yeah,
and
that's
he
amazing.
like carried around Jake and Elwood dolls that I had in my office, and I'm like, I'm sorry, he has no idea what he's wearing or who those guys are, but I want to believe that there's something in his blood that he already knows that that's cool.
Yes, I love that. No, you're right.
But see, Star Wars, because I know you're a big Star Wars guy,
dude. You don't even know about our house.
So. I'm not sure how, like, if it's just in your wheelhouse because of your age, but like Star Wars was ingrained in me since birth, literally, because my dad worked for Kenner Toys.
Oh, that's right.
So he made
what?
Yeah, so he made all the Star Wars toys. So do I.
And you know what? It was similar to our friend John Evans.
Yeah, his dad worked for Atari. Yeah.
Oh wow.
And so. I mean, that's like my earliest memories of anything was toys, specifically Star Wars, because I was born in 1977.
Yeah.
So Star Wars was taking up all of Kenner's time.
Dude, 6 years old, dude.
Yeah. I mean, I was
Return of the Jedi. That's amazing.
That's the first movie I remember seeing in a theater. Wow. And I got to see it before anybody else because they gave like screener passes to people that worked at Kenner. and what's really fun about that is I remember how cool I felt telling my friends that I got to see it early,
right?
And then when episode 1 came out, I was the movie critic for my college newspaper,
right?
So I got screeners, and I got to take my dad to see episode 1 before anybody else,
and then he
so it was like I got to and then he was like, "What is this?"
Thanks a lot for that.
Terrible.
I camped out my senior year of high school.
For episode 1?
Yeah, I must have failed English because I skipped school.
So what are you, like, class of, like, what, like 96?
99.
99?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that is about right.
Yeah.
I was 95, so I guess that's about right.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So did you get good perks from Kenner?
Yeah,
did you get, like, were you the first one with the Ewok Village?
He would bring home stuff whenever they would shoot a commercial. He had to go to Vancouver a couple times, and then every year he was one of the ones sent to New York for the Toy Fair.
Oh my God!
And he would help set up their booth.
Right.
And one of my favorite things that he would do is when he would come home from the Toy Fair, he'd bring me the catalog that showed everything coming out that year.
Wow.
So like toys that weren't out yet, and then he'd bring me home something from the Toy Fair. But what was more fun was he would bring home stuff as they were working on it.
Wow.
So he was a model maker. So basically his job was they would give him a blueprint, and he would build like a working model of it, and they would a lot of times it'd have like it's unpainted, and it would have like Sharpie marks on it to say we need to fix this and this and this, and then that became garbage, and they would make those changes on the mold and redo a new one until they got it right.
So you would have like first gen Greedo.
Yeah, so they were called first shots. Yeah, it's exactly what they were called. And I had like
I know toy collecting.
I didn't have a lot of first shot figures because those were kind of there wasn't a lot of variance to them.
Sure.
But the vehicles, like I had a first shot A-wing and a first shot Y-wing.
And now are you crying about how much that would be worth?
Well, what's funny is I'm crying about the stuff that got...
Do you know how much that would be worth?
I do know how much it would be worth.
I'm insanity.
Back into collecting again.
People would lose their damn minds.
Well, funny story.
Hit me.
So,
guys, welcome to the Star Wars podcast.
Yeah, I could talk... we could talk about this for all day. Yeah. So,
we have kids. Okay,
so
go ahead.
I remember when Return of the Jedi was about to come out. It wasn't out yet. And initially... you may know it was going to be called Revenge of the Jedi. But George Lucas said revenge isn't a characteristic of a Jedi, right? Like that sort of hate.
I know the variant posters and stuff that were already out. Yeah.
So when they make figures, they're the plastic bubble on the cardboard.
Okay.
And those cardboard backs are big sheets that get cut for each figure.
Yeah.
Well, they had, I don't know how many sheets of those pieces of cardboard with Revenge of the Jedi printed on it. And my dad and all his coworkers, they're the...
I'm starting to get butterflies in my stomach.
And a bee in your face.
Yeah.
They are the guys that, they weren't mechanics, but they could fix cars. They weren't carpenters, but they could hang drywall. They weren't electricians, but they could install ceiling. That's just that generation.
Yeah.
And one of the things my dad he's a huge car guy, and he changed his own oil.
Sure.
So he brought home probably 10 of those sheets so he could put them down on the garage floor when he was changing the oil to not let oil get on the floor of the garage. And then once he was done, he'd throw it away. Well, those sheets ended up being worth about $3,000 to $4,000 a piece. But he just went through them over the course. I remember him laying down. I thought, oh, that's cool, but no one had the foresight at that time to go, maybe we should hang on to
Revenge of
those.
the Jedi sheets
Covered in oil. But
but
I kept a lot of my stuff. I kept it in my parents' basement, of course.
Yeah.
And when I was quitting my day job to do stand-up full-time, I thought that was right about when episode 1 came out.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually somewhere between episode 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So eBay was now a thing.
Yep.
And the Star Wars collectibles had come back up because now the new toys were getting people excited to go back and collect the old toys. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to sell these, but I wasn't really sure how to do eBay. And some guy that my dad was a mutual friend of a Kenner coworker said, well, there's this guy in Indiana who's been really good at helping Kenner employees like sell their stuff on eBay for a nominal fee, like a percentage of whatever it sells for. So he came over, he looked at it all with me, and he knew exactly what was like a normal toy that, because I played with everything.
Sure, yeah.
What was like a normal toy that was just out of a package, production, so to speak.
Yeah, a million were printed.
Yeah, and then what was like maybe like a little more rare so that we could list them properly. And we listed a couple items and got a call from a guy in New York who was like, I would like to fly and see your whole collection.
What? So
he flew, him and another guy flew to Cincinnati. I had it all laid out in my parents' basement. And he looked at, the guy from Indiana was there too to oversee it. And he's like, I'd like to buy all of it. And he made me an offer. It was like, I think it was like $6,000 for everything. And at the time it was pretty fair.
Right.
And the guy was like, yeah, I think that's a good deal. So we made the deal. And then he says, he's like, no, is this everything you've got? And I said, well, there's a couple, there's like this little white box kind of off to the side that had like some random weapons and stuff in it. And I go, there's maybe a couple things in there, but, and he opens a box and he looks at the guy that he brought from New York with him and he was like, get over here. And I was like, what? And so I'm sure you probably remember there was a cartoon on Saturday mornings that was a Droids Ewoks cartoon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's like 15-minute Droids.
Yeah.
C-3PO and R2-D2 adventures, and then a 15-minute like Ewoks thing.
Right.
Well, they only did one season of it, but I had 2 prototype figures that would have been characters in the second season.
Right.
But it never got made, so they never were produced. So I had 2 of the same ones, but they were like a random Ewok you've never heard of, and I never heard of. Right. I didn't even really consider Star Wars.
Right.
And in terms of like collectibles.
Yeah.
He's like these are worth a lot of money, and he's like he goes. And again, I think at the time it was pretty fair. He offered me $2,000 for each figure, so that upped the total sale to $10,000.
Oh my God!
And so I made the deal. Now those 2 Ewok figures go for about $10,000 each.
Whoo! Wow.
Yeah, but at the time I was quite pleased with the transaction. And still, I mean, I don't feel like I got.
Yeah. Do you? It's funny. Like I did the same kind of thing. I purged almost all of my stuff after I had my second child. Did you do another purge when she had kids?
I just did it's not a full-blown purge because that was really the only toy line I sold. And
I was poor.
And I only did it because I felt like it was not going to ever be worth that as much as it was right then.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, it might maintain its value, but I didn't think it was going to go from there to some crazy number.
That makes sense.
So I made the deal and I was cool with it, but I kept all my other toys, which was like starting lineup, like the sports figures. And
see, I got rid of those. I had a lot of those. I got rid of my Star Wars stuff. Man, I had. You know what? I was really into James Bond.
Oh, really?
See,
I wasn't allowed to have anything that wasn't Kenner.
like as a rule.
I mean, it wasn't that I wasn't allowed. It was just like Kenner toys were so accessible.
Right.
That it was like. I didn't have G.I. Joes. I had Mask, which was like
I had G.I. Joes.
Yeah.
I still have a little bit of my. That's one of the only things. Not to get sad, but grown dad business. I have to say something sad about my life once an episode, but the only toys I have from when I was a kid were a little box of G.I. Joes that I took because we left my stepdad in the middle of the night.
Okay.
Because we were leaving an abusive household.
Wow.
So I have those.
Yeah.
But I don't have, like, I remember leaving because we were well off. So I had all my Star Wars toys. I remember the Ewok Village. I had huge vehicles of all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
G.I. Joes, He-Man. Like, I had all of them. I left them all.
My favorite, it's weird because they're still not even worth a ton. I mean, they're worth more than they were when you bought them, but they're still not worth a ton of money. But they had this line of die-cast figures that were like half an inch tall Star Wars characters, and then there was like a miniature, like there's a miniature X-wing,
like those,
and a
those
tiny
micro
little,
machines.
very similar.
Yeah.
But the village or the vehicle was like plastic, and then the little figures were like hard painted metal.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Like, you know, they're die-cast metal toys. And I loved those as a kid.
Yeah.
Because it was like...
Well, I love the Micro Machine ones.
They're cool.
I
They're
love
very
those.
cool. But this was like the earliest version.
Yeah.
I was like, I remember one that was like, it was from Empire Strikes Back. They had like a Hoth, and it came with like a little Hoth monster.
Yeah.
And a Luke guy that hung upside down by his feet, and you know, a Tauntaun. And I just remember like these little scenes that I could make. And so recently I just purchased on eBay, or at a yard sale in Cincinnati, I found a bunch of like mint condition die-cast figures.
Get out.
That I bought solely with the intention of being able to display it in my office.
Sure.
Not like, this is a good investment. Like I want...
Yeah. I get stuff like that.
I opened them and I put them out and set them out. But... You know, I still have my starting lineups, and I have like some toys that my dad had worked on that he kept like a full collection of. Like
That's
he
cool.
bought like he got like one of everything in the box and then just put it in a box. Not just because he thought it was cool that he worked on it. So I had like some RoboCop stuff.
That's
and,
cool.
Some brands you've never heard of because they weren't that popular. But I've recently started to kind of unload some of that stuff because I've taken out what I want or the stuff that means a lot to me personally. And then now it's just like, you know, there's people out there that are clamoring to get their hands on that stuff. And it's like, it's just sitting in my storage.
Yeah, I went full time as an entertainer right around when my second child was born.
Yeah.
When Luke the Nuke was born. And it was like, okay, well, we own a house. We had a second kid. I have all this stuff that I could possibly make money doing, you know, selling.
Yeah.
And I did, man. I mean, I have almost nothing left of James Bond. I mean, all of my Star Wars stuff is gone. You know what I was really into? I did an independent film. You should watch this if you haven't already. And you're like, wait, that's yours? I did a movie called A Great Disturbance, and it was in film festivals all over the country.
I have not.
Yeah,
I'm ashamed. And
it's a Star Wars mockumentary about Star Wars fans. We filmed it at Celebration 3 in Indianapolis.
I'm so mad you were there.
Yeah,
because I didn't even know Celebration was a thing.
We were the only film crew allowed in there. We were licensed by Mary Franklin, licensing director for Lucasfilm. Yeah, it was awesome,
dude.
We won awards. We sold DVDs. We sold over 10,000 DVDs all year. Anyway, it's one of the funniest things I've ever done. Still. And it was our Borat before Borat. We walked around the convention for 4 days and played characters. Like a documentary was following the biggest Star Wars fans, but we were playing like archetype characters of fans. So like
Where can I see this?
It's free on YouTube. A Great Disturbance on my Aaron Kleiber. But yeah, we were really into the British Office, and we love Christopher Guest. And so that's what it is.
Christopher Guest.
It's kind of our Christopher Guest movie. But anyway, because of that, we toured conventions and film festivals and like sci-fi conventions for a year and a half, doing like, sold out screeners of our movie. And so we got to go and like game a lot. So I got really into Star Wars minis. You know what I'm talking about? You would play on a grid board, kind of like Hero Quest, but Star Wars.
Okay.
And it was like, it was RPG.
Yeah.
And but it was cooler because you had Boba Fett and not like some random wizard.
The Demogorgon.
Yeah, right. Oh, don't even say that.
We can't talk about Stranger Things.
That's a whole episode. Guys, welcome to the Stranger Things 80s podcast. But no, I got so into that every time for a year and a half, almost every week, I was at a convention or a film festival where I was buying Star Wars minis. So my wife, finally, when I'm purging things, she goes, so your Star Wars minis? And I mean, dude, I had, those little cases you get for like beads at like Pac-Tans?
Yeah.
I had those like all separated, light side, dark side, fringe characters, all bounty hunters, one. Dude, I had a stack of them. I had a stack of cases, and I had a huge backpack that carried them all. And so, because I would take them on the trips to like conventions and stuff when we do our movie screeners. And so I didn't play it for years, and I didn't get into where they started getting into vehicles, which would have cost me way more money. But I realized like I put about $3,000 into these Star Wars mini characters.
That's so funny.
I know, over the years. And so and we were like Wizards of the West Coast, I think. They're the company that like would make them. They would always hook us up because we were like celebrities to them. And so they would give us like free, here's just like promos, and like give us like a whole handful of stormtroopers. And so like we'd be playing, and I'm like, I got an army of fucking 100 stormtroopers. How do you look like that? Like it's awesome. It was so fun, dude. So I was like, yeah, I haven't played this in a couple years, and I thought I'm gonna teach my son how to play this. Like he's a year old, and I'm like, I gotta keep these for Luke, and I do wish I did. I honestly did, but I made a lot of money on Star Wars minis.
Really?
Because I had rares because you would go to a convention, and they were called what are they called? The boxes where you don't know what's in it.
Oh yeah, like a mystery pack.
Yeah, they would all be mystery packs. So you'd open it up, and it's very rare Boba Fett. You'd get a Mora Jade. It's like you'd be like, oh my gosh, and then 8 years later, that Mora Jade is worth $150.
Yeah.
Or I would sell lots of stormtroopers. Like here's a dozen stormtroopers, and people would bid them up to like $80. I'm like, this is crazy. Like figures that I got for free.
Right.
And then it was like, oh, how did you get that heavy stormtrooper? Oh, well, Wizards of the West Coast gave it to me. Well, it's a rare character because they gave out 1,000.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was like random stuff like that.
How many celebrations have you been to?
Was that just one?
Just the third?
Just the film one. Yeah.
I was so upset once I learned that it was a thing that that it was in Indianapolis, and I didn't know about it. Because my brother-in-law, who also named his son Luke, he's a giant Star Wars fan.
Yeah, people are like, "Did you name it?" I have a whole joke about that.
Did you name it from Star Wars?
I like.
You can be honest.
No, yeah. Part of the joke is me like not admitting it, but like part of it is we liked biblical names. And, Luke was a doctor and a disciple of Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
I know all about that.
But maybe it is. Maybe it is.
Subconsciously?
He could have been a Middle Eastern doctor, or maybe he threw his dad.
What's his middle name? Bosk? Okay. You know what? I think that, I get what's going on here.
Luke IG88 Cliver.
So my brother-in-law found out about Celebration 5, I think, in Orlando. And decided he was going to take Luke down there for the whole weekend. And it just happened that we were going down on vacation on Sunday, the last day of that celebration.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, I'd love to go to this. Dean was like a month or two old.
Right.
And my wife's like, why don't you? We'll go straight from the airport. We'll drop you off, and my mom. It was her mom and and her and Dean were gonna go drive around, get some food, and I was just gonna check it out for a couple hours and meet up with my brother-in-law and my nephew. And I was like, oh my God, I could spend a whole thing here. Like I could spend a whole weekend here. And so I was like, well, I want to make plans to go to the next one. Well, the next one was in Germany. It was the first one that they did in Europe. And that was in 2014. And then they announced 2015 was going to be in Anaheim.
Right.
So
I almost went to that.
My brother-in-law and Luke were going out for that. And it fell on the weekend of my anniversary. And I was like, I can't go. And then she told me at my birthday in March that her anniversary present to me was that I was going to go out there with them.
Ooh,
so I was like,
she got a hell of a back rub that night.
Oh man. So then I find out that my brother-in-law and his son have purchased on eBay Jedi Master VIP tickets to this thing. And I'm like, I am not going to go out there and watch you two go to the front of every line and get all this extra cool stuff while I'm, you know. And so I went out on eBay.
And they do get extra swag.
You get
dope. Trust me, I've gotten
insane swag.
I've been in the VIP list, and you get dope swag, dude.
Yeah. So I found a Jedi Knight, which is a VIP, but it's one level below them.
Right, yeah.
It's almost all the same perks except a couple like T-shirts that you don't get, and they had a couple extra cool things, but for the most part, we could get in at the same places and sit in the same sections. And excuse me. So we go out the night before it starts. Check into our hotel, and one of the perks is that we get to go pick up our credentials and check out the store for Celebration.
Oh, yeah.
The night before Celebration.
Yeah.
So there's probably 20,000 people sleeping in the basement of the Anaheim Convention Center waiting in line till the next morning. Some of them have been there for 3 days.
Yep.
So we're like the last in line to get our credentials. We're like, let's go check out the store before we walk back to the hotel. We'd flown from Cincinnati all day out to the West Coast. So we're walking in the store. I see this little commotion of like 4 or 5 people hurrying through the lobby that's completely empty.
Right.
And I tell Matt, who's ahead of me, I go, Matt, hold on a second. And he's like, what? I'm going in. I'm like, just wait a second. So sure enough, here comes J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah.
And I just go, and there's no one else there. And I go, I'm so sorry. Is there any way I can get a picture with you? And he's like, yeah. And so I lean in and I take a selfie. Yeah. And Matt's standing there, and I go, Matt, have him get a picture real quick. So JJ takes a knee. He gets down next to Luke, and Matt goes, Luke, look up here. And JJ goes, his name's Luke? That's awesome. It hasn't even started yet, and our whole trip has been worth it, right? We go to Walgreens, like as soon as we're done. Like we thank him. We go to Walgreens, print out the picture because we're like, with the VIP, we never know when we might run into him again. Let's have this picture blown up that he could sign for Luke. Yeah. So the next morning is when it all kicks off, and they're going to show the episode 7 trailer for the first time. Yeah. So with the VIPs, we get to sit up at the front of the line. Wow. So we're sitting there. J.J. Abrams comes out and does the panel with all the cast and everything. Then they go, you guys want to see a trailer? Everybody loses their minds. He walks off to the side of the stage. Somehow, him and Luke lock eyes. Yeah. And we're watching the trailer, and he tells Luke, he goes, come here. All we see is Luke start to walk to the stage where J.J. Abrams, and we're like, Luke, no, get back here. He's like 8 years old, and we're like, he doesn't know any better. He thinks they're best friends now. Yeah. But just randomly, J.J. Abrams didn't know that was the same kid from the night before, but just saw that there was a kid there. Right. Abrams takes off his hat, puts it on Luke.
It's a Star Wars hat?
It's a Star Wars hat that has the bad robot thing, and it was a fitted hat. We looked online everywhere. You can't buy them.
And he has it.
And he wore it the whole rest of the trip.
I cannot handle this.
Every picture he's in, he's wearing this hat given to him by J.J. Abrams. This kid has no idea how amazing.
I can't handle this.
Right? So we have like the best experience there. Yeah. We end up, my brother-in-law, a super smart guy, he finds out that J.J. Abrams is at their Bad Robot offices doing post on like something else. Right. So he sends the picture out with a real nice letter. Says, you know, you gave my son this hat, and here's the picture you took. J.J. Abrams signed it to Luke. May the Force be with you. Mailed it back. I mean, it's like the best story ever, right?
It's amazing.
So then this year the celebration was in London. Then they announced it's going to be in Orlando, 2017.
Yeah.
We're the day the tickets go on sale. We're online refreshing VIP tickets for Orlando next year.
Wow.
No one cares about the story but you, and everyone just sat through it.
No.
But I mean, I love.
I got a lot of nerdy dad friends.
I get to take my son next year.
Yeah.
My wife is going. She wants to go. She's a Star Wars fan now.
Yeah, we would. You know, I'm not in that tax bracket yet. I'm also building a house, so. But it'll happen. We want to just go to the Disney
The Star Wars land that they're building.
Have you been there?
Well, they have like a couple rides, but they're building.
I know the thing.
Yeah,
like they're building
the
Endor.
Harry Potter of
they're building Endor.
Yeah,
they're building Endor and Hoth. Apparently, like they're building Jabba's palace. Dude, they're built. Like, hey, other grown-up man.
Yeah,
they're building Jabba's palace.
They had a Jabba's. They had a
like, bro, you could take a slide down to the Rancor pit.
Love it.
Come on, dude.
How do you not love that?
I'm gonna be a grown man. Like, whee,
can I tell you?
Down
just
to the
to tie
Rancor
this
pit.
back into comedy.
Yeah.
Can I tell you one of my all-time favorite comedy stories? Happened at Star Wars Celebration in Anaheim.
Yeah.
So I'm walking around, and even if you're not a Star Wars fan, you have to appreciate the fact that you know how crazy those fans can get.
Sure.
And this is the Mecca for them. And there are 50,000 people walking around, a generous portion of them dressed in character, like elaborate costumes. So I'm just walking around looking at stuff, and someone taps me on my shoulder and says, "I'm sorry, are you Josh Sneed?" And I go,
I love it.
Yeah. And he goes, "You farted on Jessica Simpson." I was like, "Yeah, I did." He goes, "Dude, I listen to you on Pandora all the time." He was like, "Every time your bits come on, I glance at the screen and I see the album cover, which just is my face, close up of my face." He was like, "I knew it was you right away." And I go, I wanted to hug this man. I literally wanted to. I go, we're in a place. We're surrounded by Wookiees and X-Wing pilots and Darth Vaders, and someone picked me out as Josh Sneed, the comedian. This is the greatest experience of my entire life, aside from my kids being born.
But it's closer than you think.
That's right.
That's a John
Evans
line.
reference. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about kids a lot. We talked about comedy a lot. No, we didn't.
No. We might have to do a follow-up episode.
No, this is perfect because I love episodes like this where we end up talking about something. And really, Grown Dad Business is really just broing out about Star Wars sometimes.
It is, because when I think of Grown Dad Business, I think of 90% of my days are consumed by housework, taking care of the kids, giving the wife a break once in a while.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like what I seek out as a dad is the opportunity to talk to other dads either about the same things we all go through and need to vent about and need to learn that other people experience these same things, so it's not unique to us and it's going to be okay.
Right.
And stuff that we love that we don't get to talk to anybody else about at length.
So we have a couple podcasts we got to put on the schedule. Is one, we got to actually talk about being dads, and then we have to do a Stranger Things podcast.
Okay.
And then we're going to do an entertainment entrepreneurial podcast.
Absolutely.
So we got 4 episodes.
But see, all of that revolves around being a dad, because it's things that you're passionate about that you pass on to your kids.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, I'm having this conversation with you right now because of how my dad being that passionate about it.
Absolutely.
When I was my son's age right now.
Sure.
So, like, the things that resonate with you, like, as a person and as a dad, set the table for
Absolutely.
what your kids are going to be into for the rest of their lives, you know? So we're having this conversation because of what our childhood was like. So I'm trying to provide a similar environment for my kids so that one day he can speak just as fondly about Star Wars and talk about how his dad took him to Celebration when he was 5 years old.
That's amazing. And that's what it's all about.
It's 100% what it's all about. You're doing good. Don't sell yourself short, man. You're living a dream.
It is. Yeah.
Let me put one more thing in perspective for you before we go about comedy and about being a dad living in the Midwest. This is one thing I remind myself all the time is it's very easy in the business that we're in to be surrounded by people who have achieved the highest level in our industry, right? They have their own TV show. They're in movies. They're playing theaters. People are coming out in droves because they know that that person is there. And it's very easy to go, I don't have that. And I want that. And it's good to want that, and it's good to work to get that. But look at it the other way. Like, look at it as though you're on a ladder. Instead of looking up who else is above you, look at how many people are below you, right? How many people just go to a comedy club and come up to you after a show and say, I could never do that. I could never in a million years do that. Right. And then of the rest of the people who say, my buddies have told me I should try stand-up and will never even step foot near an open mic stage. And then go to the group of people who have said, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot. And they do one open mic and they're terrified, or they bomb and they never do it again. And then go from that to how many of those people do it on a regular basis, or have done it enough that they could even think about calling themselves a comedian. Right. And then from them, how many people got to MC an open mic night or do a bar show? Or how many people got to MC at a comedy club for one night, let alone a full weekend, and get out of their own town to go do work on the road? And how many of those people got to go middle somewhere? And how many of those people got to middle in an A room? And how many of those people got to headline a terrible gig or work with a big name comedian? Right. And how many of those people got to headline an A room? Like, you've done all those things. Think of how many people you've gotten further in, and you're still doing it, and you have a comfortable life, and you have you're being a dad to your kids. Yeah. How many people can say that they've done that?
Boom. That's Grown Dad Business.
It's Grown Dad Business.